My name is Ren Hollis, and I am 18 years old. 3 months ago, I stood behind the velvet curtain of my high school auditorium, adjusting the heavy gold valedictorian medal resting against my collarbone. My fingers traced the edge of it, cold and solid, a symbol of everything I had worked for over the past 12 years. I leaned forward slightly, peering through a narrow gap in the curtain. The front row came into focus. Rows of proud parents, cameras raised, smiles wide. Some people were already tearing up. And then, there were 2 empty seats, reserved, marked with my family name, Hollis. Empty. My phone buzzed softly in the pocket of my gown. I already knew who it was before I even looked. My mother, Evelyn Hollis. I unlocked the screen. Traffic on the interstate is a nightmare. The message read, "We turned around and headed to the university. Aria has an exhibition volleyball match tonight." I stared at the words, reading them again and again. "You'll have plenty of academic moments in the future. This is her time to shine." My jaw tightened. "We'll celebrate your graduation tomorrow." Tomorrow? They skipped my high school graduation to watch my younger sister play a meaningless preseason volleyball game, a practice, not even a real match. When the announcer finally called my name, I walked onto that stage with perfect posture, just like they taught me. But I didn't read the speech they helped me write. I didn't thank them for their unwavering support. I didn't pretend anymore. I tore the pages in half. Right there, in front of 3,000 people. And I told them exactly who Evelyn and Marcus Hollis really were. What I didn't know was that Principal Hayes was standing off to the side of the stage, recording everything, every word, every pause, every truth I had buried for years. And when that video hit the local news the next morning, my parents' carefully constructed image started to crack. Then it shattered. Their wealthy friends began asking questions they couldn't answer. Questions that led somewhere much bigger, much darker. Questions that would eventually trigger a federal investigation. Before we continue, take a moment to subscribe, but only if you believe that sometimes the hardest truth to say can completely change your life. Where are you listening from right now? And what's the temperature like where you are? I read every single comment. And just so you understand, this is a fictional story, with some elements enhanced by artificial intelligence to make the emotions more vivid and realistic. Now, let me take you back to the exact moment I realized my family wasn't a family at all, just a perfectly curated illusion. The auditorium smelled faintly of floor polish and nervous anticipation. Voices from thousands of parents and students echoed beneath the high ceiling, blending into a constant hum. I stood just behind the curtain, holding 3 crisp pages of cardstock. The speech in my hands was flawless. Carefully crafted gratitude that praised my parents for their endless support and sacrifice. My mother, Evelyn Hollis, had reviewed it twice, making sure every word reflected well on her. I glanced through the curtain one last time. The 2 reserved seats with our family name were still empty. I opened her message again. Aria was 19, a college sophomore, a volleyball player with a perfectly curated social media image. Tonight's game didn't matter. It wasn't part of any ranking, just a polished rehearsal dressed up as something important. Yet, somehow, that was worth more than 12 years of my work. I have always processed life through patterns, through data, and this pattern was clear. Aria gave them something they could display. I gave them something they couldn't monetize. My achievements were quiet, invisible in their world. They didn't want a daughter. They wanted an image. I didn't cry. I stopped expecting that kind of response from them a long time ago. What I felt instead was something sharper, colder, clarity. My name was called. Principal Hayes stood at the podium, smiling as I stepped into the light. The stage was bright, almost blinding. I looked out at the crowd, cameras lifted, faces glowing with pride, families leaning toward each other, and then I saw them again. Those 2 empty seats. I reached the microphone and looked down at the pages in my hands. Every word on them felt hollow now. Manufactured. I tightened my grip and tore them in half. The sound cut through the auditorium, sharp and unmistakable. Paper ripping echoed through the speakers, amplified into something final. The pieces slipped from my hands and drifted to the stage floor. I leaned forward slightly, resting my palms against the podium. "Good evening," I said, my voice calm, steady. The speech I just destroyed was built on a version of reality that doesn't exist. I paused, letting the silence settle. I was supposed to stand here and thank my parents for their unwavering support, but I rely on facts, and the facts in this room tell a very different story. I raised my hand and pointed toward the front row. "If you look there, you'll see 2 empty seats reserved for the Hollis family. Evelyn and Marcus Hollis are not stuck in traffic. They are not dealing with an emergency. They are 50 miles away, watching a preseason volleyball practice for my sister." A ripple moved through the crowd. They chose a staged moment over 12 years of real effort. A photo opportunity over showing up. I let the words hang, precise and deliberate, so I won't thank them today. Instead, I glanced across the audience. I will thank the parents who showed up, the ones who understood that presence matters. Then I looked back at my classmates. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Build your future on your own terms. Don't waste your energy chasing validation from people who won't even take a seat for you. I stepped back. No applause. Just silence. A heavy, stunned silence that spread across the room like a wave. As I walked down the side stairs, I caught sight of Principal Hayes near the curtain. His phone was raised. Steady. The small red recording light blinked quietly. He didn't stop me. Didn't say a word. He simply nodded once. That was enough. I didn't stay for photos. I didn't join the celebrations. I walked past families gathered in the parking lot and drove straight home. The Hollis house stood quiet, polished, perfect. White marble floors, high ceilings, walls filled with framed photos of Arya holding trophies. My achievements were hidden away in a drawer. I pulled 2 suitcases from the closet and began packing with calm precision. I understood exactly how my parents operated. Image came first. Always. And after what I had done tonight, they would need someone to blame. I wasn't going to be there when they came looking. I packed only what mattered. Clothes, my laptop, my documents. The jewelry and designer bags they bought to complete their illusion stayed exactly where they were. Those items were nothing more than props, and I was done performing in their production. I zipped my suitcases, requested a ride share, and placed my house keys neatly on the cold granite kitchen island before walking out. The next morning, I woke up in the guest room of my older brother's apartment across the city. My phone was vibrating nonstop against the nightstand. The glow from the screen lit up the dark room, revealing hundreds of missed calls and an avalanche of notifications from every platform imaginable. I unlocked it and opened my browser. Principal Hayes hadn't saved the video for school records. He had sent the raw footage directly to a well-known local news anchor, who posted it on her official page. Overnight, it exploded. More than 4 million views. The algorithm carried my voice, my words, everywhere. The comment section turned into a public trial. People dissected my parents' behavior, dug into their profiles, and labeled them as the perfect example of performative suburban privilege. I stepped out into the kitchen, Still holding my phone, my brother, Rowan, stood by the counter pouring coffee. He had cut ties with our parents years ago, building a quiet life as a software engineer. He left the moment he turned 18, after watching Arya receive a brand new sports car while he was handed a student loan form. He passed me a mug without saying a word. At the kitchen island sat his wife, Camille, brilliant, composed, and always 10 steps ahead. She worked as a senior crisis public relations strategist, managing reputational disasters for powerful corporations. Multiple screens glowed in front of her as her fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard. "You broke the internet, Ren," she said without looking up. "It's trending #1 nationwide. Every morning show is running your clip. Your delivery was surgical. No emotion, just facts." I took a sip of coffee. I just told the truth. Camille finally looked at me, a sharp smile forming. Truth is the most dangerous weapon in public hands. She tapped one of the screens. "Your parents are experiencing a complete brand collapse. Their entire social circle is built on the illusion of perfection, and right now, that illusion is burning." She paused. "They're going to strike back. Right on cue." My phone lit up again on the counter. Evelyn Hollis. Camille reached over, answered the call, and put it on speaker. She motioned for Rowan and me to stay quiet. My mother didn't ask if I was okay. Not once. "Have you lost your mind, Ren?" she snapped. Her voice sharp and frantic, echoing through the kitchen. "We are trending for all the wrong reasons. Beatrice Caldwell just canceled our weekend event, and the country club board contacted your father about our conduct. You humiliated us in front of the entire district. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. You made us look like monsters." I stared at the phone, calm. "I only pointed out 2 empty seats," I said evenly. "Your absence did the rest." A heavier voice cut in. "Marcus." He had taken the phone. "Listen carefully," he said, his tone cold and controlled. "You are coming home immediately. You will sit in front of a camera and issue a full retraction. You will say you were emotional, that you overreacted, and that we had a legitimate scheduling conflict. You will fix this." "I'm not apologizing for your decisions," I replied. There was a brief silence. Then his voice dropped. Sharper this time. "If you don't correct this disaster by noon tomorrow, I will go to the bank. I will freeze the $50,000 college trust your grandmother left you." Marcus's voice was calm, controlled, and completely calculated. That trust had been set up by my grandmother before she passed. She understood exactly who my father was long before I did. The money was meant for one thing only: my data analytics degree, my future. He was just the legal custodian until I turned 19. But he treated that role like a weapon. "You depend on that money for tuition, housing, everything," he continued. "If you don't come home and read the statement we prepare, you are cut off. Completely." The line went dead. Silence filled the kitchen. Heavy, pressurized. He thought fear would force me back into place. That money was supposed to be the leash. I glanced at Rowan. His grip tightened around his mug, his knuckles pale with restrained anger. Then I looked at Camille. She didn't react emotionally. She analyzed. Her fingertip tapped lightly against the marble surface. Once, twice, as her mind moved faster than the situation itself. Then something shifted in her expression. A sharp, focused intensity. "He wants a broadcast," she said quietly, her eyes locked onto mine. "He wants to control the narrative, use you to repair his image. He thinks the trust fund gives him leverage." She stood, closing her laptop with a crisp click. "Call him back. Ren." I frowned. And say what? Tell him you give in, she said. Tell him you'll come home tomorrow morning and do the interview exactly how he wants. That means he wins. I replied. He controls the story. I look like I lied. Camille smiled slightly. Cold. Precise. No, she said. It means we get cameras inside his house. She stepped closer. And a live camera is the most dangerous weapon in the world, if you control what happens in front of it. There was no hesitation in her voice. Let's give your father an interview he will never recover from. I picked up my phone and dialed. When he answered, I kept my tone neutral. No emotion, no resistance. I told him I would come home in the morning, that I would sit down for the interview, that I would cooperate. There was a brief pause. Then I heard it. Satisfaction. He exhaled sharply, convinced his threat had worked. He gave me a time, ordered me to dress modestly, to look apologetic. Then he hung up. Camille spent the rest of the night working without pause, screens filled with data, social media timestamps, location tags, archived posts. She didn't need a private investigator. People like my parents documented their own lies every day. All she had to do was follow the trail. If you think my parents were right to choose my sister's volleyball game over my graduation, comment support. But if you believe that kind of choice is unfair and hurtful, comment I oppose. Sometimes, a single decision reveals everything about what people truly value, and I want to know, what would you stand for if you were in my place the next morning? A white news van was already parked in the circular driveway of the Hollis house, a satellite dish angled toward the sky. The top anchor from a local morning show had arrived for an exclusive interview. I stepped through the front doors. Camille followed quietly behind me. My parents didn't question Camille's presence. To them, she was just background, someone there to comfort me, to keep me quiet, to help maintain the image. They had always underestimated people who didn't fit into their narrow definition of status, and that miscalculation was about to cost them everything. The living room had been transformed into something almost unrecognizable. It no longer felt like a home. It felt like a set. Bright studio lights washed over every surface, bouncing off polished marble and curated art pieces chosen more for impression than meaning. Every angle was intentional, every detail controlled. Everything looked perfect, manufactured. My mother, Evelyn, sat at the center of it all on the white sofa, dressed in a soft beige sweater that made her look gentle, approachable. A tissue rested delicately in her hand, like a carefully selected prop. Her posture was composed, her expression fragile but measured, convincing. Marcus stood nearby, arms relaxed but his presence firm, radiating authority. The kind of presence that had carried him through boardrooms and negotiations, the kind he believed could still control this. When I took my seat across from them, he leaned in slightly and handed me a single sheet of paper, read it exactly as written. He whispered, his voice low enough to avoid the microphones. No improvising. I didn't respond. I just placed the paper on my lap. The room shifted into silence as the crew prepared. The floor director raised his hand. 5, 4, 3. The red light blinked on. We were live. Melissa Carter, the anchor, began with practiced ease. Her voice was calm, empathetic, carefully balanced to appear neutral while guiding the narrative exactly where it needed to go. She framed it as a misunderstanding, a modern family conflict intensified by timing, pressure, and social media exposure. Then she turned to my mother. Evelyn lifted the tissue, pressing it gently to the corner of her eye. It's been overwhelming, she began, her voice trembling just enough to feel real. We love Ren deeply. We were caught in a terrible situation. Aria's coach changed her match schedule at the last minute, and we tried to make both events. She paused, letting the emotion settle, but traffic made it impossible. Her breathing slowed, controlled. We made a difficult choice. We thought we could celebrate Ren afterward. We're human. We made a mistake. Melissa nodded, absorbing every word, her expression soft and understanding. The performance was flawless. Then she turned to me. Ren, she said gently, your parents have explained what happened. You brought a statement today. Would you like to respond? I looked down at the paper in my hands. An apology. A script. A carefully constructed version of reality designed to erase everything that had happened, everything that was true. I didn't lift it. Instead, I slipped my hand into the inside pocket of my blazer and pulled out a glossy photograph. My mind is trained to analyze facts, I said, my voice calm, steady, cutting cleanly through the room. Yesterday, my mother claimed they were stuck in traffic. Today, she repeated that claim on live television. I raised the photograph, turning it toward the main camera. But facts don't lie. A slight pause, and neither do timestamps. The image filled the screen. Evelyn and Marcus stood in the center of a grand ballroom, crystal glasses in hand, surrounded by well-dressed guests. Behind them, mounted on the wall, a digital clock displayed the exact time, the exact moment I had been standing on stage. Alone. They weren't at a volleyball game. I continued, my tone unwavering. There was no emergency, no sudden change. I let the silence stretch just enough. They chose to attend a private wine event at Oak Ridge Country Club. I lowered the photo slightly, my eyes never leaving the camera. They chose networking over their daughter. The shift in the room was immediate. Evelyn's face drained of color beneath her makeup, the carefully constructed emotion collapsing into something raw and exposed. Melissa leaned forward, her professional instincts taking over. Mr. Hollis, she said, her tone sharper now. Is this image authentic? Were you at a private event instead of your daughter's graduation? Marcus didn't answer, for a fraction of a second. He stood completely still. And in that moment, the illusion broke. Not slowly. Instantly. Cut the feed. He snapped, his voice sharp, losing all composure. Turn those cameras off. This interview is over. He stepped forward, raising his hand toward the lens, trying to block it, to control it, to stop something that was already beyond him. Get out of my house, he shouted. The screen cut abruptly to technical difficulties, but it didn't matter. Hundreds of thousands of people had already seen everything. The truth had already been broadcast. And for the first time, there was no way to take it back. The news crew packed up quickly, sensing the tension before it could explode further. Within seconds, the doors slammed shut, leaving behind a suffocating silence inside the living room. Marcus turned slowly. His face was flushed dark red, his breathing uneven and sharp. Evelyn sat frozen on the sofa, staring down at her hands. Camille stood near the archway, calm, almost satisfied. You think you're clever. Ren, Marcus hissed, stepping toward me, inviting cameras into my house just to destroy my reputation. His voice dropped. Colder. You just destroyed your own future. He turned and strode down the hallway toward his office. I'm freezing your trust fund right now, he shouted. You won't see a single dollar. I followed him without hesitation. Camille walked behind me, her eyes scanning everything. We entered his office. Dark wood. Perfect order. Control. Marcus was already behind his desk, typing aggressively. He bypassed the usual systems and logged directly into the financial platform holding my trust. You want to act smart, he snapped, Let's see how you manage when your tuition fails next week. He clicked rapidly. I'm transferring every dollar. You're done. I stepped closer to the desk. I didn't argue, I didn't react. I watched. The screen loaded. The account appeared. Balance. 0. Marcus froze. His hand hovered over the mouse. Unmoving. He stared at the screen as if it had betrayed him. I leaned forward, scanning the transaction history. 5 withdrawals, 10,000 each, executed in sequence. I checked the timestamps. 6 months ago. The money had already been taken long before tonight. The room fell silent. Even the faint hum of the air system sounded loud. Marcus slowly pulled his hand back. He didn't look at me. I studied the data, every detail locking into place. Where is my grandmother's money? I asked. My voice wasn't calm anymore. It was precise. Sharp. He snapped the laptop shut. There was a mistake, he said quickly. A banking error. I'll call them tomorrow. I shook my head slightly. You don't withdraw funds in structured increments unless you're avoiding detection. I said. That's not an error. That's concealment. Camille stepped into the room. Arms crossed. Men like you don't touch protected trust funds unless something else is collapsing, she said quietly. Marcus gripped the edge of the desk. Get out, he said. But there was no authority left in his voice. Both of you. Leave my house. I already had what I needed. The numbers, the pattern, the truth. I turned and walked out without another word. Camille followed. Whatever this was, it was bigger than a family argument now. And this time, I wasn't going to stop at the surface. Camille drove without saying a word. Her hand steady on the wheel as rain slid down the windshield in uneven streaks. The city lights blurred into soft lines of color, fading in and out as we moved through traffic. I sat in the passenger seat, watching it all pass by. But my focus wasn't outside. It was already ahead. We didn't talk about the interview. We didn't mention the moment everything collapsed on live television. We didn't need to. That part was over. What mattered now was the data. My grandmother had built that trust fund with precision, legal safeguards, clear restrictions. It wasn't something that could be casually accessed or accidentally drained. Breaking it required intent, planning. And Marcus Hollis didn't take risks unless something forced him to. When we walked into the apartment, Rowan was already pacing across the hardwood floor. The tension in his movements stopped the moment he saw me. He froze it. He asked immediately. I set my laptop down on the table. He didn't freeze it. I said. He emptied it. A pause. 6 months ago. Rowan's expression hardened instantly. His jaw tightened as he reached for his phone. We're taking him to court. He said. We can freeze whatever's left before he moves it again. I stepped closer and placed my hand over his, stopping him before he could dial. You can't chase money that's already gone, I said calmly. If he moved it, he didn't leave it exposed. He layered it. Rowan let out a frustrated breath, running a hand through his hair. A lawyer would take weeks to untangle that. I added. I sat down and opened my laptop. I won't. The screen illuminated the room with a pale glow. Camille moved to the chair beside me, silent but attentive. She didn't ask questions. She didn't interrupt. She saw the shift in me before anyone else did. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was analyzing. My father always believed his wealth made him untouchable. That money created distance between him and consequences. But what he never understood was that habits leave patterns. And patterns can be tracked. For years, he had insisted on using a shared cloud system for the entire family. It was efficient. He said. Convenient. All devices synced automatically. Files updated in real time. He assumed no one would ever look past the surface. He was wrong. I bypassed the standard interface and accessed the root directory directly. The system opened without resistance. Folder after folder appeared. Years of data, financial records, statements, scanned documents, tax files. Everything he thought was buried was still there. I opened a terminal window and began writing a script. Simple. Focused. Search parameters set to flag outgoing transfers above $5,000 within the last 8 months. I ran it. The cursor blinked. Then the screen filled with movement. Lines of data streamed past. Too fast for the eye to follow, each one representing a transaction, a timestamp, a decision. Then it stopped. 5 entries remained. I leaned in slightly. 10,000 each. Consecutive Tuesdays. Camille said quietly, reading over my shoulder. Her voice carried a subtle edge now. I highlighted the destination account. It wasn't a bank, not a brokerage, not anything legitimate. It was a company. Elite Collegiate Pathways. Rowan stepped closer, frowning. What is that? I didn't answer immediately. I opened a new window and searched the corporate registry. A Delaware filing appeared. Shell company. Minimal disclosure. Standard structure designed to obscure ownership. Nothing unusual. Until I looked closer. The registered address. That was the mistake. I copied it and cross-referenced the location. The map loaded. And then it clicked. The address pointed to a facility connected to Aria's university. I leaned back slowly, the pieces falling into place with quiet, unsettling precision. Images flashed through my mind. Her apartment, the car, the lifestyle she displayed online, the constant narrative of success, talent, achievement, the scholarship my parents proudly talked about at every opportunity. None of it added up before. Now it did. Every part of it. I didn't feel shock. Just clarity. Cold. Structured. Undeniable. I opened the university's athletics website, navigated to the volleyball program, clicked on the roster. The page loaded. Names appeared in a clean grid. Photos, positions, statistics. I scanned through them carefully, line by line, until I found hers. And that's when the truth became impossible to ignore. Aria's face appeared on the team roster, smiling, polished, exactly as expected. I barely registered the image. Instead, I scrolled past it and went straight to the statistics. Numbers didn't care about appearances. Numbers told the truth. Her game logs loaded in neat rows. Freshman year, sophomore year. 0 blocks, 0 kills, 0 defensive plays. I scrolled further, checking minutes played. Less than 15 minutes total across 2 full seasons. It wasn't just underperformance. It was absence. I leaned back slightly, letting the data settle. She doesn't have a scholarship, I said quietly. The words felt heavier once spoken out loud. Camille leaned in beside me, her eyes narrowing as she processed the screen. Athletic scholarships are based on measurable output, she said. She has none. She has no athletic value, I corrected. My voice steady. But she has financial value? I pulled up the transaction records again, aligning the dates with the university timeline. The pattern became impossible to ignore. This wasn't tuition. It wasn't debt. I continued. Marcus used my trust fund to buy her position. Rowan exhaled slowly, his voice dropping. He paid for her spot. The reality hit all at once, not in fragments but in one complete, undeniable picture. They took your future, he said, to manufacture hers. It wasn't favoritism anymore. It was fraud. Deliberate. Structured. Executed with precision. Money routed through a shell company, disguised as legitimacy, exchanged for status and access. Camille straightened slightly, her tone sharpening. We have everything. Transfers, timestamps, routing paths. It's all connected. She reached for her phone, already moving into action. This doesn't go to local authorities, she said. This goes higher. Her thumb hovered over the screen. I'll send it to the NCAA compliance office. They'll launch a full investigation within days. Before she could press send, the intercom buzzed sharply, slicing through the tension. Rowan moved toward the panel and activated the camera. The grainy monitor flickered to life. Arya stood outside, restless, pacing, sunglasses still on, even indoors. Her phone pressed tightly to her ear as she turned in small circles. She's been calling nonstop. Rowan muttered, Of course they sent her. I stared at the screen. Then I looked back at the data on my laptop. Everything about her life suddenly aligned. The apartment, the car, the curated posts. The image she projected to thousands of followers. None of it was earned. All of it funded, built on money that was never hers. Let her up, I said calmly. Rowan hesitated for a moment, then pressed the button. We heard the elevator begin its slow ascent, the mechanical hum echoing faintly through the apartment. For the first time, I felt nothing. No anxiety, no anticipation, just clarity. A sharp knock followed seconds later. Rowan opened the door. Arya walked in immediately, bringing with her the scent of expensive perfume and something else beneath it. Panic. She didn't acknowledge Rowan, didn't glance at Camille. Her eyes locked directly onto me. The designer bag on her shoulder caught the light. Gold hardware gleaming with deliberate luxury. It was new, expensive, carefully chosen to maintain the illusion she was still in control. Take the video down. Ren. She snapped without hesitation. You're ruining my life. I let my gaze drop briefly to the bag, then lifted it back to her face. She kept moving. Pacing now. Her steps uneven, her voice rising with every sentence. My sponsors are pulling out. My comment section is flooded. People are attacking us everywhere. She said, You had your moment. You made your point. Now fix it. I didn't respond. I watched. Every shift in her posture, every crack in her tone, every attempt to hold on to something that was already slipping away. She stopped pacing and faced me again, breathing faster now. You don't understand what you've done, she said. This affects everything. I tilted my head slightly. I understand exactly what I've done. I replied, and I did. Because in that moment, standing in front of me, she wasn't a star athlete. She wasn't an influencer. She wasn't even confident anymore. She was someone standing on the edge of a truth she couldn't control. And in a few seconds, I was going to take away the only identity she had left. I spent 2 years building my brand. Arya snapped, pacing in front of me. Her voice was sharp, brittle, like something already cracking beneath pressure. 3 sponsorships, contracts, real money. And you destroyed everything over a 2-minute meltdown because Mom and Dad missed one ceremony. I stayed seated. I didn't interrupt her, didn't react. I just watched. Perfect hair. Styled like she had just stepped out of a photo shoot. Perfect nails. Glossy and untouched. A brand new designer bag hung from her shoulder, the gold hardware catching the light every time she moved. She looked flawless, manufactured. Delete the video, she demanded, stopping directly in front of me and pointing a manicured finger. Then you're going to record an apology. You'll say you were jealous, that you lied, that you exaggerated everything. Her voice rose with urgency. If you fix this now, my sponsors might come back. Rowan let out a short, bitter laugh from the kitchen. You show up here after ignoring us for months, he said, shaking his head, and ask her to destroy herself just to protect your fake image. Stay out of it, Arya snapped, turning on him instantly. You wouldn't understand. Neither of you would. You sit here with your code and your spreadsheets acting like that's the real world. Her eyes flicked back to me, full of frustration, expectation. I didn't look at her face. I looked at the bag. I understand the real world perfectly, I said quietly. She froze. There was something in my tone that made her stop pacing. That bag, I continued, costs around $4,000. I lifted my eyes to hers. Your main sponsor paused your contract this morning, and Marcus froze his credit lines yesterday. A beat. Silence stretched just long enough to matter. So how did you pay for it? Her expression shifted for a fraction of a second. Then she smiled. Confident, rehearsed. I don't need them, she said. I'm a top athlete. The university supports its best players. I get a monthly stipend from a private foundation. Camille leaned forward slightly, her voice calm but precise. That kind of direct payment violates NCAA regulations. Arya ignored her completely, already pulling out her phone. Look, she said, stepping closer and shoving the screen toward me. 4,500. Deposited yesterday. I earned that. I didn't flinch. I read the sender. Elite collegiate pathways, for a moment. Everything aligned with perfect clarity. I gently pushed her hand away. Then I turned my laptop toward her. Read this. She frowned, leaning in slightly, her confidence starting to thin. 5 transfers. I said, 10,000 each. I tapped the screen, highlighting the dates. 6 months ago. Her eyes moved across the numbers. Slower now, more uncertain. Marcus drained my trust fund. I continued, my voice steady, almost clinical, and sent it to that company. Then I pointed back to her phone. And that same company just paid you. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything she had said. Her face changed. Not dramatically. Just enough. What does that mean? She asked, her voice quieter now, less certain. It means you don't have a scholarship, Rowan said flatly. It means your spot was bought. The words landed harder than anything else in the room. Camille stood, her posture shifting, her voice colder. And it's worse than that, she added. That money was routed through a fake foundation and sent back to you as a stipend. That's laundering. The bag slipped from Arya's shoulder. It hit the floor with a dull, heavy sound. She didn't pick it up. No, that's not true, she said, shaking her head, stepping back slightly. Dad said I earned it. The coach told me I was. They gave you a costume. I cut in. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. A role. I continued. Something they could show off. Her breathing became uneven. They needed a perfect image. I said, and when they couldn't sustain it anymore, he used my money to keep it alive. She looked down at the bag on the floor like it no longer belonged to her. Like it meant something different now. Something heavier. You can't tell anyone, she said, her voice cracking completely this time. If they find out, I lose everything. Rowan didn't hesitate. You already did. That was the moment she broke. Not slowly. All at once. She dropped to her knees, the impact echoing softly against the floor. Her hand reached out, grabbing the edge of my chair like it was the only stable thing left. Ren, please, she said, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I'll fix it. I'll give the money back. I'll do whatever you want. Tears blurred her mascara, breaking through the perfect image she had spent years maintaining. We're family, she whispered. I looked down at her, at the desperation, at the fear, and all I could see were those empty seats. You're not my family, I said quietly. The words were calm, precise, final. You're part of a crime. I stood up, pulling the chair back. Her grip slipped away. She stayed on the floor, shaking, staring at something she couldn't fix. Behind me, Camille opened her laptop. Her fingers hovered for just a second, then began to move. I'm filing the report, she said. No hesitation, no doubt, just the sound of keys sealing everything that came next. I'm compiling everything, Camille said, her fingers already moving across the keyboard. Transfers, routing data, stipend records. This goes to the NCAA, the university board, and the FBI. The sound of her typing filled the room like a countdown. The trap was already in place. Arya stayed on the floor, gripping her bag as if it could anchor her. For 19 years, she had lived inside a carefully built illusion. Now it was collapsing all at once, and she had no way to process it. Get up, Rowan said sharply. You're not welcome here. She looked at him, eyes swollen, makeup smeared. Whatever argument she had prepared died before it left her mouth. Slowly, she stood. She didn't look at me again. She walked out. The door closed behind her with a heavy click. The silence that followed wasn't tense anymore. It was focused. Camille kept working, scanning data. We have financial proof, she said. But that's not enough. Federal cases need intent. We need communication showing the deal. I pulled my laptop closer. He documented it. I said, people like him always do. I accessed the deeper archive, bypassing the standard folders. Email backups loaded. I ran a targeted search, filtering for key phrases within the exact time frame of the transfers. The system processed. Then one folder appeared. Philanthropic contributions. I opened it. 12 emails. Between Marcus and the university coach, Daniel Reeves. I read the first one out loud. The initial 10,000 has cleared. I expect full team access for Arya by Monday. The reply came immediately after. Confirmed. She's on the active roster. The stipend arrangement will begin next semester. The room went still. It was all there. Clear. Direct. Undeniable. Camille leaned closer, a faint smile forming. They wrote the entire scheme down. She said quietly, I exported everything. Emails, transactions, timestamps. I secured the files and transferred them to her system. She began assembling the report with precise efficiency. We're not sending this to local police, she said. That would disappear in paperwork. She paused, eyes focused. We're sending it where it forces action. Universities aren't institutions, Camille said calmly. They're corporations. Reputation and funding come first. If they have to choose between protecting a coach or protecting their brand, they'll cut the coach immediately. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. We just have to force the decision. She built the report with surgical precision. No emotion, just facts. $50,000 pulled from a protected trust. Routing numbers, shell company structure. The email chain proving direct involvement from the coach. Every detail was clear, verifiable, damaging. She didn't send it from her own account. Instead, she routed everything through an encrypted offshore server, masking the source completely. The report was addressed to the university's compliance office, the Board of Regents, and a contact she trusted inside the FBI's white-collar division. Then she pressed send. The screen flickered briefly. And just like that, it was gone, released into the system. Now we wait, Camille said, closing her laptop. Institutions move slowly, but once panic starts, everything accelerates. The wait lasted 3 days. I used that time differently. I accepted a full academic scholarship at a top university on the East Coast. My data analytics portfolio had already secured it. I arranged housing, finalized enrollment, and cut every financial tie connecting me to my family. For the first time, I wasn't dependent on them. I was free. On Thursday afternoon, everything shifted. I was sitting in Rowan's living room, focused on a coding model, when Camille's phone lit up with rapid notifications. She picked it up, her expression sharpening with interest. "They didn't bury it," she said, almost impressed. She turned the screen toward us and played a live broadcast. A press conference. The university's athletic director stood behind a podium, his face tense under the lights. Cameras flashed as he read from a prepared statement. "The head coach of the women's volleyball program has been placed on immediate administrative leave," he announced, voice tight, "pending a joint internal and federal investigation into serious recruiting violations." The room went quiet. The system had responded exactly the way Camille predicted. Fast, decisive, and irreversible. The athletic director didn't say Aria's name. He didn't need to. He announced that several athletes connected to a fraudulent foundation had been suspended and permanently banned from campus. My phone buzzed on the table. A message from an old classmate. A link. I opened it. A sports gossip site. At the top was a blurred photo taken outside the University Athletic Center less than 30 minutes earlier. Aria was in the frame, walking out between two campus security officers. She carried a cardboard box filled with her belongings, her head lowered to avoid the cameras. The image said everything. The golden child had been removed. No uniform, no status, no illusion. Within an hour, her entire online presence disappeared. Her accounts were wiped, sponsorship pages gone, every trace of her perfect life erased in a panic. The influencer didn't fall slowly. She vanished, but she was never the real target. Marcus was. Everything had been built to protect his reputation, his standing, his carefully curated world. That world collapsed the next morning. Friday, 10 a.m. The intercom buzzed again. Rowan didn't even check the screen this time. He walked over and pressed the speaker. "Who is it?" My mother's voice came through, broken, desperate. "It's me. Please. Rowan. The police are here. They're taking his computers. He was fired this morning. We have nowhere to go." I stood up slowly. This was it. Marcus had built his career managing wealth, protecting assets, maintaining trust. The moment federal investigators contacted his firm and linked him to fraud and theft, the response was immediate. He was terminated. Licenses revoked. Access denied. No hesitation. Rowan pressed the intercom again, his voice flat. "You chose a volleyball game over your daughter. Now choose a public defender over your son?" He released the button. Silence. He didn't open the door. He didn't look back. He left them outside with the consequences they created. But it wasn't over yet. Not even close. 2 hours later. My laptop chimed. I had been monitoring what remained of Marcus's assets all morning. His accounts were already frozen, investments locked down. When people like him lose digital access, they look for anything tangible, anything they can liquidate. I opened the alert. An automated email from a car dealership. Appraisal confirmation. I stared at the details. When I was 17, I spent over a year working nonstop. Data entry, tutoring, every dollar saved. I bought my first car with that money, but the title was in his name. At the time, I was still a minor. Marcus insisted the car be registered under his name, claiming it would reduce insurance costs. I paid for it entirely myself. But legally, it belonged to him. What he forgot was the email I had linked to the dealership system. That link was still active. And right now, it was telling me exactly where he was. I turned my laptop toward Rowan and Camille. "He's trying to sell my car," I said calmly. "He needs cash before the indictment drops." Rowan stared at the screen, jaw tightening. The title's in his name. Legally. He can sell it. If he walks out with that money, it's gone. He added. Camille was already dialing. Not the police. A lawyer. She spoke quickly, outlining the situation with sharp precision. Then she ended the call, stood up, and grabbed her coat. "Get ready," she said, eyes focused. "My attorney will meet us there in 20 minutes. With a notary and the right documents." She paused, a faint edge in her voice. "He thinks he can liquidate your asset. We're about to show him what real control looks like." Rain hit the windshield as we drove across the city. The dealership was massive, glass, steel. Rows of polished cars under bright lights. We stepped inside. The air smelled artificial, clean, controlled. I saw him immediately. Marcus stood at the appraisal desk, arguing with the manager. His usual composure was gone. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, sweat visible along his forehead. He clutched a folder tightly. "I need the check now," he snapped. "The car's already appraised. Wire it or print it." "I don't have time for delays." The manager shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, we need to verify the title first. Standard procedure." "There's nothing to verify," Marcus barked. "I own it." "No," I said. My voice cut through the showroom. "He doesn't." He froze. Slowly, he turned. His eyes landed on me. Then Rowan. Then Camille. And finally, the man beside her. Tall, composed, carrying a leather briefcase. Marcus stepped back slightly. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, forcing authority into a voice that didn't have it anymore. "This is harassment." I walked forward, stopping a few feet from him. "You're trying to sell something I paid for," I said evenly. I held his gaze. "And you're trying to steal from me again, after everything you've already done." Marcus let out a short, dismissive laugh, glancing at the sales manager. "Don't listen to her. She's emotional. My name is on the title. Legally, this car is mine." The man beside Camille stepped forward. He opened his briefcase and placed a thick stack of documents on the desk, covering the dealership paperwork. "The state also recognizes civil embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty," he said evenly. "My name is Daniel Vance. I represent Ren Hollis." His voice was calm, controlled, final. "The FBI is already investigating your involvement in wire fraud and collegiate bribery. That's federal. But the theft of $50,000 from a protected trust fund?" He paused slightly. "That's a separate state felony." Marcus's expression shifted. The color drained from his face. Vance tapped the top document with his pen. "This is an emergency injunction and a civil filing ready to be submitted immediately. If I proceed, the state will open a parallel criminal case." He leaned in slightly. "And prosecutors don't show leniency to men who steal from their own children." The words landed hard. "You will face state incarceration before your federal trial even begins. And this injunction will stop this sale instantly." The sales manager had already stepped back, clearly wanting no part of this. Marcus looked at Rowan, then at Camille. The fight in him faded. "What do you want?" he asked quietly. Camille stepped forward, her voice precise. "We want balance." She didn't blink. "You took $50,000 from Ren. You hold the title to her car, and you still have equity left in your house. Vance slid another document toward him. A quitclaim deed. He explained. You transfer your remaining home equity to Ren and Rowan. You sign over the car title, and you hand over the keys now. Marcus stared at the paper. His hands trembled. If I do that, I have nothing left, he said, his voice cracking. I can't even afford a lawyer. For a moment, no one spoke. Then I did. You can figure that out the same way you expected me to, I said calmly. On your own. I held his gaze. You built this outcome. Rowan's voice cut through the silence. Sign it. He didn't move. Or we file everything right now, Rowan added. And you spend tonight in a holding cell. The showroom was completely still. Every option in front of him led to the same place. Consequences. And for the first time in his life, he couldn't buy his way out. Marcus picked up the pen. His hand shook so badly he could barely hold it steady, without reading a single line. He signed the quitclaim deed, then the title transfer. No hesitation, no negotiation, just the quiet understanding that he had already lost. The notary stepped forward and stamped the documents with a sharp, final click. The sound echoed louder than anything else in the room. It was done. Everything he had left had just been legally transferred. Marcus let the pen fall. Slowly. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the keys, and placed them on the desk. He didn't look at me. Didn't say a word. He turned and walked out. Through the glass doors, into the rain. No car, no house, no control. Just a man walking straight into the consequences he created. I picked up the keys. They felt heavier than they should have. Real. Permanent. I glanced at Rowan and Camille. No one needed to say anything. It was over. We left the dealership. The documents secured in Vance's hands, and drove away. The rain blurred everything behind us. The past. The illusion. All of it fading into something distant, inside the car. The air felt different, clear, like breathing for the first time. But freedom isn't just about breaking something down, it's about what you build after. And I knew exactly what I was going to build next, because systems like his always collapse the same way. Cold, precise, without emotion. The system didn't care about status. It didn't care about country club memberships or imported furniture. 30 days after Marcus signed the deed, the bank moved forward. I didn't go back to watch. I followed everything through public records. Sitting in the quiet of Rowan's apartment, the timeline was precise. A county sheriff arrived on a Tuesday morning and posted the eviction notice on the front door. 2 hours. That was all they were given. With their accounts frozen and no cash left. There were no movers, no careful packing. Just cardboard boxes and whatever they could carry. Evelyn left behind everything that once defined her. The custom closet, the furniture, the image. The bank replaced the locks. Steel secured the gates. The house was sealed. Within days. It went to auction. The location attracted immediate interest. Developers competed. The price climbed. And that's where everything came full circle. After the mortgage was paid, the remaining equity legally belonged to the name on the deed. Mine. Marcus thought he was signing away pressure. He didn't understand the math. 2 weeks later, a wire transfer hit my account. I saw it while packing for college. $58,000. I stared at the number for a long moment. He took 50. I got it all back. Plus more. The balance was restored. I moved the money into a secure account under my name alone. No access, no interference. But that was only the beginning. The legal consequences came next. Federal prosecutors didn't negotiate. The case had drawn attention. Public outrage, pressure. They wanted an example. The trial moved quickly. Courtroom, cameras, headlines. Marcus stood before the judge in a cheap gray suit that didn't fit. His hair thinner, his posture smaller. The man who once controlled everything was gone. In his place was someone finally facing something he couldn't manipulate. The prosecutors laid everything out with precision. Wire transfers, routing numbers, the shell company, the emails. Every step of the scheme was documented. There was nothing to argue. The defense offered nothing, because there was nothing left to defend. The judge's gavel struck once, sharp and final. Marcus Hollis was sentenced to 36 months in federal prison for wire fraud and conspiracy. Restitution was added, ensuring he would leave prison already in debt. The handcuffs clicked in the courtroom. He was led away without a word. He didn't look back. Evelyn was left behind to deal with what remained. And what remained was nothing. The people she spent years trying to impress disappeared overnight. Calls unanswered. Doors closed. Access revoked. Reputation, once broken, spreads fast. She moved into a small apartment above a laundromat to survive. She took a job at a discount grocery store. Long hours, repetitive work. The life she once dismissed became her reality. Aria fell even harder. No degree, no skills, no brand left to protect. The companies that once sponsored her filed claims to recover their losses. Debt replaced everything she had. 3 months after I left, Rowan sent me a photo. He had stopped at a drive-thru. The employee handing him coffee was Aria, uniform stained, hair tied back under a cheap visor. No trace of the life she once displayed. When she recognized him, she looked down immediately. I deleted the photo. There was no satisfaction in it. No anger either. Just distance. Everything that had once defined that family was gone, and I was no longer connected to any of it. A year later, I sat on the lawn of my university on the East Coast. Autumn leaves moved quietly in the wind. My laptop rested on my knees. A complex data model open on the screen. My work was strong. My future was stable. And for the first time, everything I had was truly mine. My phone rang. I answered. Rowan and Camille appeared on screen, standing in their kitchen, smiling. We booked flights for Thanksgiving. Camille said, "We're staying near campus. No cafeteria food for you this year." I smiled, closing my laptop. "I'll send you my schedule." I said, "I can't wait to see you." The call ended. I leaned back against the rough bark of the oak tree, watching students move across the campus pathways, each one carrying their own version of the future. For years, I had been taught something simple. That family meant loyalty, no matter what. That blood created an unbreakable bond. Even when that bond slowly destroyed you, that you were supposed to endure, stay quiet, and accept whatever was given to you, just because you shared the same name. But none of that was true. Blood is not loyalty. It's coincidence. It doesn't give anyone the right to use you, silence you, or rewrite your value to fit their narrative. And when the people who are supposed to protect you treat you like an inconvenience, or worse, an asset to exploit, you are allowed to walk away. You don't owe them access to your life. You don't owe them forgiveness just because they ask for it. And you definitely don't owe them a role in a story that was never built for you to win. Walking away isn't cruelty. It's clarity. It's survival. I didn't lose a family. I let go of something that was never real. And in its place, I built something honest, something stable, something mine. A life defined by truth, not performance. Have you ever found yourself in a situation like mine, feeling unseen, unheard, or pushed aside by the very people who were supposed to stand beside you? If you have, I want you to know you're not alone. Your story matters more than you think. If you feel comfortable, share your experience in the comments. I'm here, truly listening, without judgment. Sometimes, speaking your truth is the first step toward healing. And maybe, just maybe, your story will help someone else feel a little less alone too. I also want to ask you this. If you would make the same choice as I did walking away from a toxic family, reclaiming your future, and building your life on truth instead of illusion, feel free to comment amazing. If you would choose a different path, write no, and if you're still thinking, still torn between your heart and your logic, you can write maybe. There are no perfect answers here, only honest ones. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the ones that shape who we become, and wherever you stand, your voice truly matters. Looking back on everything, I've learned something I wish someone had told me earlier. Not everyone who shares your blood deserves access to your life. Respect, love, and support are not automatic. They are earned, protected, and sometimes they must be rebuilt elsewhere. Walking away wasn't easy. It felt like losing everything at first. But in truth, it was the moment I finally chose myself, my future, and my peace. And maybe that's the most important lesson of all. You are allowed to choose a life where you are valued, not tolerated. Thank you for staying with me through this story. It truly means more than you know. And if this story made you feel something, or helped you see your own situation more clearly, then your support can do something powerful. A simple like, a comment, or a share from you might help someone else out there feel less alone, or give them the courage to make a difficult but necessary decision. One subscribe from you helps stories like this reach people who need them the most. So if you believe in that, I'd really appreciate your support. And I'll see you in the next story.
Welcome to Family Confessions. Our stories go beyond entertainment, helping viewers recognize toxic behaviors, understand boundaries, and reflect on their relationships, while reinforcing self-worth and the strength to heal and move forward. Each video follows a structured workflow ensuring quality and value for our audience. Thank you for being here.